Welcome back to In Montreal. My name is Dan Delmar. Now, in the good old days, you used to be able to sort of walk away from schoolyard bullies. I've been there, you've been there, we've all had these experiences. But now, in an age where everything is on the internet, well, it's a little different. Here to talk about cyberbullying is a clinical supervisor with Jewish Family Services, Corey Sirota Frankel. Corey, thanks for coming on.
It's my pleasure to be here.
Now, like I said, in the good old days, you used to be able to walk away from these fights. Now, what's happening online exactly, and what is cyberbullying?
What's happening online is very different from what's happening at school, in that at school, if you were bullied by someone, maybe a few people knew, maybe the class knew, maybe even the grade knew. But when you're at home and it's become such a social network for kids, they're always online, and now you're able to tell North America. If I don't like something about you, I don't just tell my friends, I tell North America about it. And so the amount of how widespread it is really what is so worrisome today about one of the things that is so worrisome about what's going on today. The other piece is that the rate in which someone could get this information and reach other people is astronomical and can be extremely damaging to anyone who's been subject to it.
And there's no escaping it either, right? Because it follows you into your own home.
Well, that's the challenge, is that kids are always online, and if their social networks are in fact part of who they are and their connection to their friends, they don't want to be offline. And then, of course, the other challenge is if something happens that they're uncomfortable with, they would normally tell their parents, and their fear is, if I tell my mom or dad, what are they going to do? They're going to pull the plug. So I don't want to be disconnected from my social network, so I'm not going to tell. And so many kids are enduring it, and that in itself is also a huge problem.
Now, it's not really taken as seriously as actual bullying because kids aren't, coming home with black eyes or anything. Why should parents worry about cyberbullying given that it's in their own home, they're safe, they're in their rooms? Why is this something to be concerned about?
I think that's the mistake that parents are making, as many individuals make, is they don't understand that the nonverbal social relational aggression, we'll call it, whether it's at school or it's certainly online, is what we're seeing, is equally damaging, and sometimes if not more. And so that the mistake is that to think that it's less hurtful because it's all happening online, and it really does speak to someone's their sense of self, and we know all adolescents are struggling in terms of identity development with who they are. If they start to believe the things that are written online, you have real challenges with their sense of identity and sense of self.
Now, there have been a lot of cases in the news lately, especially with websites like Facebook, and I know there was St. Thomas High in Pierrefonds where kids sort of made groups to make fun of other kids and teachers. Why is sort of this impersonal nature really just as damaging as insulting someone to their face?
There's more issues, and one is that it's equally damaging. And again, I said it's far-reaching. What the problem is that when you're online, it's easy to have what I look at as a disinhibition, to be able to say things. I'm not saying it to your face, so it's easier. It's not as mean, or I don't feel I have an easier time doing it if it's not to your face. Of course, this is much more damaging to individuals because they are saying things that they would never say. Kids are using their best 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old judgment, which is they're doing the best they can, but in fact they don't realize how, unless they're the recipients of this kind of bullying, do they realize how in fact damaging it can be, and it's permanent. That is a huge issue that kids need to understand, that the information they place online, on their Facebooks, on their MySpace, etc., is permanent information. So if I'm looking to hire someone and I go on someone's Facebook, which is public domain, and I see that they said certain things about schools or certain things about people, that speaks to their character, and this is really where the education has to come in. Kids really need to understand that and need to be held accountable for their behavior.
So how do you make parents understand that kids are sort of responsible for these actions, even though it's in this sort of anonymous online world?
I think parents have to understand, partly they have to become computer savvy. They need to be able to know what their kids are doing online, and it's a false sense of security to say, oh, they're in their room, they're safe, they're up in their room, they're fine. Being on the internet is like letting a stranger walk into your house, walk right past your bedroom, and go into your kid's room because you think that they're safe, but you have no idea about really what's going on. If we were in a public place and I started doing something very inappropriate, someone would say, "What are you doing?" to me. They would say it right away. But if I'm online and no one's there to hold me accountable, then I think it might be okay. So we need to have parents and kids need to be opening up the lines of communication and having discussions the same way they talk about drug